Now we have the scripture reading, and it comes from 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 10 and 11. And the word of God says, "In her deep suffering, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. And she made a vow, saying, 'Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery, and remember me, and don't forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life.'" May God bless the reading of his word.
Thank you, Melody. All right, 1 Samuel. That's actually the story of Samuel. Samuel, the two books in the Bible, 1 and 2 Samuel. We hear about this important prophet, the prophet of the Old Testament. He did a lot for his nation. He really got the nation going in a lot of ways and heading in the direction God wanted them to be. And this is the beginning of his story. This is about his mother, Hannah, and this prayer that she prayed. Hannah wanted this child. She wanted him so badly. And so she did what we do when we want something important. She prayed about it. And she didn't just pray, in her spare time, in the privacy of her own home, that kind of praying. She got out there. She went to the tabernacle, the holiest place, and she got as close as they'd let her get to the holiest place. And then she prayed, and she prayed with such ferocity, such intensity, that one of the priests who was there looked at her and thought she was drunk. That's how hard she was praying. Have you ever prayed so hard that somebody thought you were drunk? Somebody thought you were high? I haven't. I've never prayed that hard. Nobody's ever accused me of that when I'm praying. Maybe that should be on our bucket list. To have that kind of a prayer. To pray that with that kind of intensity that people around us go, wow, that person there's something going on there. There's something different there. Well, that's the kind of prayer that Hannah had. But that's not all she did. As we heard today, she wanted this so much. She did another thing we tend to do. We'll pray to God when we want something important, but we will also, from time to time, make a deal with God. God, just give me this thing. And, I'll do this. I'll make this sacrifice for you. It's always some sacrifice. I'll quit doing this habit that I shouldn't be doing. Or I'll take on this ministry I really should be doing. And it's some deal that we make with God. And that's what Hannah did. She made a deal. She said, God, if you give me this child, I'll keep it till it gets old enough, and then I will give it back to you. This boy, he'll serve you. He'll serve you all of his life. And she made this deal. And you know what? It worked. She had this child, and when the child was old enough to go and to serve the Lord, she took the child back to the tabernacle, back where she had prayed, and she gave him to the priest there so that he could be of service to them and of service to God. And he started on this incredible path that would work out again so well for Israel. He would start on this path to be a prophet and really feeling this close connection to God. It would start very soon as a young man. God would start calling on him there in the temple, there in the tabernacle. He would respond to that. So it worked out really well for Samuel. It worked out for Hannah too, because she stayed close to him all of her life. She continued to visit him. She would bring him things that he needed. And they stayed close. And then she was also able to prosper herself, having given this great gift to God. Make this incredible sacrifice. Talk about such a personal and important sacrifice. And that's what she did. That's what she was able to do, is to make this sacrifice for God. And that's one reason I wanted to talk about this today. A lot of ways you can go with the story of Hannah. The importance of prayer, this whole idea of making a deal with God, that'd be an interesting way to go. But really the idea of sacrifice speaks to me here on this Veterans Day. She was willing to make this sacrifice and give God her son, who would end up being and serving God all of his life. And it makes me think and remember that is something, the thing about our veterans that we are so grateful for is their incredible sacrifice. Whether they've served during wartime or during peace, the act of service, the willingness to, first of all, make the sacrifice of being away from your home. Being somewhere else. It's not always a place you want to be, right? I was never in the military, but I've seen all the shows about basic training and the first day, and man, they don't think, it's like from the first second, this is not where you want to be. It's where you have to go if you want to get to someplace important, but this is a tough place to be. The sacrifices start immediately for those who serve. And then, of course, those who serve in wartime. Sometimes those who serve and they're just in training, they get injured. And they sacrifice their health. They sacrifice some of their physical abilities. And that's a part of their service, is this sacrifice that they make. They also can sacrifice their mental peace of mind. Many veterans suffer from mental issues and mental problems, partly because of who they are, but also partly because of their service and what they have seen. That is another sacrifice they make. Of course, some of them make the ultimate sacrifice, sacrificing their lives. How important, once again, how important this is to us. I mean, without these sacrifices, we would live in a very different world. We would live in a world that is less peaceful, that is less secure, that is less free. And all of these things because of the sacrifices that these men and women have been willing to make in service. It's an amazing thing. But one thing we have to recognize and realize about sacrifice as human beings and as Christians is all the sacrifice cannot be on one side of the equation. It cannot be one person or one group who is doing all of the sacrificing. You know, in every relationship, there are sacrifices on both sides, if it's a healthy relationship. In every community, there are sacrifices among all the members of the community, if it is a healthy community. And as a nation, too, there are sacrifices among everyone in the nation. That got me thinking, you know, these veterans, they have shown us their love for us. They have demonstrated, without a doubt, their love for their country through the sacrifices that they have made. How can I then respond with my own sacrifices that would be a benefit to them? What can I sacrifice in my life? What can we sacrifice? What meaningful sacrifice can we make that will not balance out the equation? Because we'll never be able to pay them back for all that we owe them. But what are some of the things we can do to benefit those who have served? Well, there are certainly a lot of needs that exist among our veterans today. One of the greatest and one of the most shocking is the fact that every day 22 veterans take their own lives. 22 veterans commit suicide. That's one every 65 minutes. And those most likely among the veterans, the ones most likely to take their lives, are the youngest veterans. Ones in their 20s are the most likely to commit suicide. This is far above our national average. It's such a huge problem, we're not sure exactly what we can do to solve the whole thing, but we can start getting our heads around what each of us individually can do a little bit and play a part. There's another thing that we see among veterans. There's the suicide rate. There's also the unemployment rate. It's a shocking fact to me that those who serve, particularly those who serve in combat, have a much higher unemployment rate than those who never served in the military. Gosh, there's something wrong with that, and surely there's something we can do to mend that. All of these things. What else? Oh, the GI Bill. The veterans are so good about using the GI Bill. Always have been. Last 60 years or more, since World War II, the GI Bill. And in the old days, the veterans would go to college. The government would pay for it because of their service. And almost all of the veterans would graduate. Today, 80% of the veterans who go to college on the GI Bill drop out. And there's something wrong there. And surely there's something that we can do about that. Some sacrifice we can make in order to help them. Again, the veterans have shown us their love for us, their love for our country, the sacrifices that they have made. How can we start, not to balance it out, we'll never be able to pay them back fully, but what can we do to let them know that they are loved? Well, there are lots of choices and lots of things that can be done here in our community and in our nation. There are lots of great organizations we can give to, and we can make a sacrifice by giving a meaningful monetary gift to one of these national organizations, or even better, giving a gift of our time. There are many of these organizations. Some are more reputable than others, but one that is excellent is the Wounded Warrior Project. And I know you've probably heard of the Wounded Warrior Project. They have a wonderful mission statement. And it's very simple. I wrote it down. I want to read it to you. The Wounded Warrior Project's mission statement is to foster the most successful, well-adjusted generation of wounded service members in our nation's history. Wouldn't that be worth a meaningful sacrifice on our part? Wouldn't that be one step we can do to balance out that ledger just a little bit? Organizations like that we can give our resources to, our money to. But we may want to give a gift that is more a gift of ourselves. We may want to give a gift of our time and our talents. And we can do that right here in our community by volunteering with the VA. The VA has the largest volunteer organization in the federal government. And they say that these volunteers who work with the VA and in the VA, they are indispensable to the Veterans Administration and to the many veterans that they serve. And let me tell you, when a veteran, and you're in the VA, you're at the VA, and you're dealing with somebody who's a volunteer, that means something to those veterans. It really does, to know that there's somebody there that doesn't have to be. They're there because they want to make a sacrifice for the veterans who've done so much for us. That's another idea. Biggest volunteer organization in the federal government, and that's something that we can do, a way we can spend our time, and we can make a little sacrifice for those who have sacrificed so much for us. One more organization, and this one's right here in our neighborhood. It's Woody's Home for Veterans. It's right up there on Jordan Street. If you're a Shreveport native or have been here a while, Jordan Street, if you have not. It's right up there on Jordan, and it is it's a place that this is really a great organization, because one of the issues with veterans we have the hardest time with and the hardest time seeing, we don't want to think about it, we don't want to see it, is the fact that mental illness is such an issue. And we know that among all the homeless veterans, half of them have some sort of mental illness. And that's who Woody's Home for Veterans serves. It's those veterans with mental illness who need a place to stay. And one thing that they'll take is they'll take your donation of clothes, of shoes. They'll take toothpaste and shampoo and things like that. They'll also take money, of course. And one thing they'll ask for volunteers to do is to simply write a letter to one of the veterans there. Let them know and to encourage them. Make that little sacrifice of time and effort. Think of the meaning that it will bring to somebody who needs that in their lives. Once again, our veterans have done so much for us. They've made their love for us known. There's so many ways that we can make our love for them known. Can't balance it out. We can never do for them all that they have done for us, but we can, through our individual actions, all together encourage them and lift them up. There's just something wrong when one group is making all the sacrifices. And that's true, again, in any relationship. If you're in a relationship that's not going well, maybe that's one of the reasons. Is one of the persons in the relationship is doing all the sacrificing, or most of the sacrificing, and that just won't work. And that's true in our relationship with God as well. As we start thinking about our relationship with God, as we start thinking about the great sacrifice of Jesus Christ, dying on the cross for the forgiveness of our sins, we think, well, what can I do in response? Well, I'm going to accept Christ, and that's wonderful. I'm going to thank Christ, and that's amazing and great to do. Always thanks, absolutely. But we also have to be willing to sacrifice. All the sacrifice cannot be on God's part. We have to sacrifice too, as Christ's disciples. We have to remember that there is no worship without giving of our gifts, without giving of our offerings. There's no grace without discipleship, without discipline. There's no forgiveness without repentance on our part. All of these good things depend on us. You know, all the sacrifices we make in our lives, in our spiritual lives, they're not going to get us there, right? We're never going to be able to repay back God. That's a debt we're never going to be able to pay back. We can't earn it, but what we can do is that through our sacrifices, we can show that we are disciples of Jesus Christ. We are in a real and healthy relationship with God. We can show that we are ready to take up our cross and follow Christ. So let's look for that here in this week ahead. The opportunities that God is giving us to make meaningful sacrifices for the veterans who serve us, for the nation that nurtures us, and for God, who through his Son Jesus Christ gives us the opportunity to be his children. and bring glory to his name through our actions and through our sacrifices. Let's bow in prayer. Loving God, we do give thanks for all those debts we cannot pay. The debt we have to our parents and those who have raised us. The debt we have to the veterans who served us and sacrificed for us. And Lord, the debt that we have to you. Lord, help us to find ways to show that we are responding to these debts with our own sacrifices. Help us to be able to see ways that we can be of service, and ways that we can bring glory to your name. And Lord, we know that one of the best places we can start in any road of discipleship, in any road of discipline and sacrifice, is here at this table. Loving God, we do ask that you bless this bread.